Hey guys, it's me again. I am coming on today because I want to share something with all of you. And if you did click on this, it's probably because at this very moment in time, you are an empath. You are one who feels like you've been beat up, you've been dragged through the mud, you've been sucker punched, you've been shown a world by many that who and what you are is in some degree not translatable. Let's put it that way. And for those empaths out there, and trust me, when I talk about stars, seeds, the chosens, I would say the primary thing that all of us have in common is that we're empaths. Okay? So I do want to speak about this because we're in a world that isn't full of empaths. We're in a world that is full of different characters, different people. And we try to navigate a world and make ourselves known through a world where we feel so much. And usually what we feel is compassion. Usually what we feel is sympathy. Usually what we feel is what the person's going through, and we stand in those shoes and try our best to relate. That is who we are. Some of us are so empathic that we can actually feel pain, like literal pain, physical pain. Let's say if someone's going through a malady or some type of illness, we'll feel it and we'll sympathize with the person because of the pain they're facing and feeling. Ironically, though, for those of us that are empaths, we have such a hard placement sometimes because it can be somewhat tragic in the sense that we're misunderstood primarily because of disability. And I will explain what I mean. I would say that if you're here right now, it's because you're tired of people that continuously try to reduce you. You're tired of people that continuously try to minimize you. You're tired of people that keep thinking that you're naive or that you're stupid. Or they translate your love into stupidity or naivety. As if you have no concept of what's going on, or you have no concept of what feelings are. And it's kind of very hard and disheartening to feel as an empath because you're like, wow, like, the only stupid thing I really did was love you, right? As the person experiencing the slack or the kickback or the annoying disposition that this person that you're showing this empathy to at the moment, right? It's like as if the person that you display the empathy to simply translates your love into naivety or stupidity. But really, it's so much grander than that. Like as a empath, you realize that your capacity for love may be something that the person you're interacting with has never felt, faced, acknowledged, interpreted, or ever encountered in their entire life. Because not to say that we're few and far between, but there is less of us than there is a population. So a lot of us feel like we get put in these places with people solely to teach them what love can look like, what it means to have unconditional love. And why I feel like a lot of other people that receive our love or our care or our understanding feel like they're in direct opposition with you is simply because of one sad and true statement. And this is for all the empaths out there. I need you guys to understand, if you are feeling down and out about the mistreatment that you have faced throughout your life, etc., I hope and pray that you understand that it had nothing to do with you. Because really and truly, ultimately, the law that you are expressing is the law of unconditional love. You're trying to show someone what it means to be accepting and understanding regardless of the mistreatment that one faces. Now, there does come a point, especially for us empaths, where we do kind of do a sit back. We have to do a sit back at times because we can only, express to our friends, express to our family, express to those around us how much we love them and incur their oppository reaction to us enough times that we realize that the person is not ready to receive the love you have to provide, and we must walk away. And what's oddly ironic, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about, it's like your friends could mistreat you or see you as a doormat or expect you to always come back around. And what's funny is that as an empath, you hold the space for love as long as you can. Because really and truly, it's like as if we are bred in a way where we understand love from the get. So it's not something we have to conceive of or grow to know. You know, it's just what we are. And what happens is that when we introduce this to people and they don't take it in the corresponding way that it should be received, like if you go and stretch your arms out to someone for a hug, you're hoping for that hug back, right? But usually what may occur is a person will pull back and be like, why is this person trying to hug me? And the thing is that their reaction to that hug, let's say if we could correlate love with a hug, right? Their reaction is because this is what they have never received. This is what they're not used to. This is what they truly may need the most, but they're scared of. And it's solely because they have not seen this transform in front of their faces. And the thing is that because you keep going with your open arms saying, okay, not today. If you don't want to hug today, I'll be here tomorrow. The person could even turn around and go to their friends and be like, oh my God, how hurting is this person? They're always trying to hug me. Like, what's wrong with this person? They can deflect this love to others to inform others that maybe there's something off about your version of love, which is the ultimate version of love, the only version of love. Love is love is love is love, is it not? So if someone reacts to this love inspiration that you're trying to provide, as simple as a hug, and they retaliate in ways of deflection, this has nothing to do with you. It's just that they're not ready for your hug yet. Now, like I said, as empaths, we do tend to take this formulation of, let's say, emotional misappropriation or this emotional casting away. And we can sometimes internalize it, because really what's truly happening is that, at least when I speak for myself, I meet individuals and right off the bat, I have an ability to connect as an empath to one's truest, like, let's say, childhood version of self. So I can see the greatness in people even when they can't see it themselves. And the thing is like, yeah, you could say like, oh yeah, then find it in yourself. You are your hardest cookie. Like, please understand that. So I keep striving to find the greatness within myself, but I have never ever strayed and had issues with seeing the greatness that one possesses from the get. It's like, even if somebody was saying the most sleight of hand things to me, I always knew that deep down inside, they just had a lot of pain. And it's not to say that I feel like they're disrespecting of me showcases that I'm the weaker one, but in the world of, let's say, the darker form of world that we live in, a lot of people see like the outreach of love continuously in the midst of getting hurt is something that is naive and juvenile to do, and maybe misunderstood, because what one does not understand is that to be an unconditional loving being is that you unconditionally understand where the person's coming from at all stages of their being. So in a way, it's like you'll stand there hoping, or it's like in a weird way, you stand there as if you are there to be a shield or armor for their deflection, so that what may bounce back is like, I'm still standing, love does survive. I'm still standing, love does survive. You can throw the hatred, you can throw the misconception, you can throw these things at me, but love will still survive. That is ultimately what I feel empaths do. They have a strong conviction in what love represents and what love truly should be and how it should be given and received. However, there comes a point where the encapsulation of love does get lost so many times that the person, as the empath, because they've been this shielding and repelling all the negative forces coming towards them, they will find that there comes a point where they're like, well, this person still hasn't understood what the greatness is within them. They don't feel that my love is useful or tangible. Maybe I should withdraw my version of empathetic observance of them or inclusion in their life, because if I don't, I will just injure myself. It kind of becomes cyclical. So that's what us empaths do have to watch for. But I will say, don't ever feel like your place in a relationship that is maybe misunderstood to others, and not so much to yourself, but to those around watching these interactions take place. Just know that if you understand that you are coming from the principled idea of what love truly is to give, receive, show, embody, then you know that there is no flaw in your providence of love, because like I said, love is love. So you understand what needs to be reciprocated. And usually empaths will try to stay with persons to ensure, or try to ensure, that that person finally gets a chance to open up that heart space enough to include you in. It's like as if sometimes empaths, we become the test in order to test someone's shattered childhood self, let's say, or a shattered crumbling heart space. Because if the person can learn to embrace you in a correct, loving way, then they too have now opened up those abilities for themselves. So there is a very natural, neutral, simplistic value to being a empath, and it is a gift, and that gift needs to be shared. And at some point we do have to withdraw the gift because it needs to be used on others, maybe perhaps at the time, or it's so far removed from the person ever perceiving what love really is. And what can occur, which is nuts to me, and I'm sure is nuts to you, because when people mistreat you over and over again, it's like you have this like humble and you have this mature setting that you're like, okay, this person doesn't know what they're doing. This person's just angry. This person sees me as a, something they can walk on because they have no control in their own lives. Or this person is deflecting because they're really wounded. Like there's so many reasons why someone will deflect love. You know what I mean? And we do it a lot of us do it. And I will say is that when you do withdraw, because you must, for self-preservation or for the ability to maybe reconnect with said person again in the future, for that deflection back and forth of love to flourish, you'll notice that a lot of persons like get mad at you because you don't want to be walked all over anymore. You don't want to take the pot shots anymore. You don't want to play the games or to incur more pain and suffering, simply because you're like choosing yourself, which is ideally what needs to happen as being the empathic gift that you are. You must put up those boundaries. You must realize that there comes a point where you're not a sacrificial lamb. You're not somebody that's needing to be put up on the cross for someone else's lack of understanding of what love truly is. And the thing is that as you fall away, all you see is the person getting angrier and angrier that you're choosing yourself for once. It's like they want you to stay there and get beat up. It's like they want you to stay there and say, hey, why aren't you taking my lashings? How dare you not take the lashings today? And it's like it gets to a point where you're like, why are you still lashing? If all the empath does is show you love, if all the empath does is come to you with kindness and understanding and like wants the most brilliant version of you to surface for once, why is that such a delusional state of being that it's like, if love is love and I've got an orange and you've got an apple, let's say, and I'm saying to you, hey, how about we cut out the apples and you give me an orange for once? And the person is just like, oh, screw you and your oranges. It's like you get to a point where you're like, okay, you must really like apples, so stick with your apples, and I'll take my oranges and go somewhere else and via con Dios and the best to you, And there's no harm in that, and there's no shame in that. And I feel like a lot of empaths do feel heart-wrenched when they do have to walk away from people, when they do have to walk away from these malignancies in their life. What I'm saying malignant in the sense that the person reciprocating does not want to meet you halfway, does not even want to breach past the idea of breadcrumbing you for the rest of your existence. It's like as if the person's saying to you that I'll feed you breadcrumbs because that's the type of ability to absorb love I have. I can only take love in little breadcrumbs, and that's why I can only dip my proverbial toe into your pool of love once in a while, because it's just too overwhelming. It's just too much for me to handle. And the thing is that should the person who has the apples realize, oh my gosh, there goes the lady or the man with all the oranges, and I really wanted orange juice, but I was just too scared to try it. It just gets to a point where, the orange seller has to move on to the next person, because really and truly, you're here to do that type of work. And it's like, what kills me is like, all along, to those that want to keep the apples, it's like you thought we were stupid. You thought we had no intelligence. You thought we were weak. You thought this, you thought that, you thought this, you thought that. But the end of the day was that you were receiving something so precious that it scared you enough to push it away. So the next thing I wanted to express is that for all of us empaths out there, don't ever feel bad about walking away from those that mistreat you. Take as much as you can. You are a mature being. You aren't stupid. You aren't naive. You're actually showing us a sense of strength that overcomes anything. And I think ideally what us empaths are trying to do is to see if we can, extend ourselves to the point of showing that what that title of love really means. Can you join it? And that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to show. But there are some 3 topics I do want to talk about, because in our lives day to day, we do interfere with other people's lives. We do shoot out this love and understanding and compassion. And as empaths, the difference there will be in our world mostly, and what we can attract at times, just because we are these loving beings. And I said before, love encompasses everything. So therefore, there is the dark and the light all encompassed in love. You're going to have your empaths, you're going to have your dark empaths, and you're going to have your narcissists. Okay? So I'm going to go shoot it across to say, like, this is what you may have to look for if you're having issues deciphering who's who. But really, it's like as if an empath will feel and walk a mile in someone's shoes. We all understand that. That's the first painstake of empathy. Now, so will the dark empath, okay? But not the narc. The narcissist has no interest in walking a mile in your shoes. They have more interest in taking the shoes you're walking in. But what will happen is that between an empath and a dark empath, and what is a dark empath, for those of you that may not understand, is that we all have choices. We all have sides that we can pick. And it doesn't mean that we're not, like, let's say, for example, once you realize the type of ability you had to show love, what if you, because you could feel, because you could see, because you could interpret more than the average bear, a dark empath uses those skills of empathy to calculate or manipulate something in their own favor. So the difference, what I would say, between an empath and a dark empath is that where the empath is just altruistically just being themselves, being what is love, and showcasing that compassion and understanding all around for no return on investment. No ROI is needed with an empath. The dark empath will mold situations. Like, let's say, for example, if they know that you're feeling sad and down and out, they know that you need a shoulder to cry on. The dark empath will be there, but then they can cultivate that sadness into getting something they want. And what I'll give you an example with was like how, and this is a weird example, but I feel like it kind of embodies this idea. Like, I don't know if you guys ever saw the Wedding Crashers video or movie. And there was this sense where there was the first 2 initial men that used to go to weddings. And then there was this like 3rd man who, I forget his name, Will Ferrell plays, where he decides to start going to funerals to basically find, let's say, what he called the horniness and sorrow. You get what I'm saying? That these women are so desperate, so destitute. They're looking for answers. They're looking for understanding. And they fall on the shoulder of a man who seemingly feels like he's there for them, but really he's trying to cultivate a sexual occurrence to occur because of manipulating the emotions that are present. Whereas a narc wouldn't even probably acknowledge that the emotions are even happening. The narcissist, all the narcissists can really do is they're more of a mimicker. They mimic emotions because ultimately they're all for themselves. So the thing is that if they see that they can mimic a situation to profit from or to gain from, they'll do that, but they actually don't know how to harness the emotions in order to do it. So what I would say is, like, the narcissists tend to have more of a persona, and the persona is one that embodies, let's say, confidence and suaveness, but it's not really one who a dark empath could actually cultivate like a narcissist, but also at the same time understand the emotion. So that actually makes them a little more hairier in a sense, in some degrees. But because they understand the full body of what emotions are, they tend to be not to the full capacity of what a narcissist is going after in terms of self-gratification. The dark empath is just manipulating slightly to get what they want, using their skill set in empathy. And the empath's just being an altruistic care bear, loving bear, huggy bear, whatever bear out in the world. So there's a difference between the three. And the reason why I would say empaths are different from dark empaths, from narcs, is because our modality, in the most part, is to work through the heart. All we do is we bleed off this heart. We're like, I love you. Come here. Let's work together. Let's do this. And the thing is that to the rest of the world who doesn't work in love, who doesn't work in this modality, or they see things, gains being found in different strengths outside of love, they won't understand where this comes from. It'll seem so foreign to them, and it'll give off the illusion that you're naive and that you're, let's say, child-minded, or you have a child-minded approach to things. But really and truly, it's like, the funny thing I'll say about empaths is, because we see from all these different angles and all these different situations and all these different emotional backgrounded and rooted occasions, we actually have a more higher self sense of things, where it's like, we know that the encompassment of the strength of love being provided out to the world is actually the strongest one. So we're actually not even scared of looking those ways, because we're like, yeah, how do we get the job done? Like, how do we love fully and honestly if we don't just like let the heart bleed out, type of thing? Because it's like, that's what unconditional is. It's like, you love people no matter where they are in their walk of life, or how they're in pain, or how they're accepting you, or how they're not accepting you. We are capable of loving all in their own circumstances. So the difference here is where a dark empath will know these things too, but they will do more of a mental weighing. So they tend to move away more so than from the heart, because not only do they understand the heart, but they don't understand it as fully as an empath, because the empath is working all through the heart. So it's like as if you do that job all the time, 24/7, that you're so proficient in the heart, that a dark empath slightly, let's say they do like 70-30, they do 70 heart and 30 mind, because they shift into this morphing, like, how do I morph these emotions into gaining something, or how do I morph these emotions to try to get things to work in my favor. So they're actually using a mental capacity in the empathic deliverance of their way of being. So what happens, it's like their approach is different than the empath. And the last is, like I said, with the narcissist. The narcissist never seems to ever work in the heart. All they can do is try to use egoic measures like money. And let's say they'll use money to gain things like someone's love, or they'll use their status to hoard over people to be admired and loved, but they're not actually ever going to use the heart as their modality or their approach ever. And the best way I could describe all three, and I know this is going to be an analogy, Ashley's all about the analogies, okay, is that if you could see that the narcissist would be, because they do have the ability to mimic, they're like that Easter bunny that we have all gotten as children, that was like chocolate, and then it's like you take off the tin foil and then you rip the head off and you realize, uh-oh, there's no chocolate inside the bunny. It's just a shell of a bunny, and there's no substance. It's just hollow. That's the narcissist. Okay. The next example for the dark empath is that bunny, when you rip it off, is going to have chocolate in it. But it's not going to be the chocolate you like. It's going to be another flavor. And this empath, the dark one, will know exactly what flavor you may have wanted to have. And in place, they'll put their own version that they wanted to have in it so that you are still satisfying one aspect, whereas the person breaking in does get whole chocolate, right? But it's not the chocolate that they wanted. So it's like, wah, 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 but not really. You know, you still get chocolate, but not the one you want. Whereas like the empath will embody and produce the full bunny full of chocolate that you as the receiver want. So this is how I would describe the feeling sets. If I could, like, I know you might think that this is weird, but that's the best way I could describe it. When you're dealing with an empath, you're going to get the chocolate, the full bunny, not hollow, fully developed, fully full of chocolatey goodness, and it's going to be the chocolate you want. Whereas the empath, the dark empath, is like, oh, you'll open the bunny up and it'll be chocolate, so it's some part of what you wanted, but you're going to be like, oh, it's like white chocolate. I never was a fan of white chocolate. Or it's going to be hazelnut. I just like dark chocolate. And then the last with the narc, you're just going to get a hollow bunny. So you know right off the bat, if you are an empath, try your best to steer clear of those hollow bunnies, because you're just going to get disappointed. And you're never going to be able to showcase what love really is to a brick wall. Like, you're going to be throwing it against a brick wall, so there's no point. So I do want to say this for all my empaths out there. If you are tired, if you are weary, if you are wondering why the whole world does not receive what you have to offer, even though it is the most simplistic offering in the world, it's just not your fault. It's simply because the person that you're dealing with, it could be any form of these or just the average Joe, because there are just those that are developing on their emotional, in their emotional body, in their emotional development, in their emotional intelligence. And as empaths, we know not to criticize that or to ever try to interfere with the evolution of one's emotional sense of rising. So we will try to do our best to cultivate it. We will try to do our best to motivate it. But at the same time, when we do pull it back, know that that was what had to happen. And if that's the case, just know that when they do retaliate, like as if it's your fault for preserving yourself, know that that is not the case. Because really and truly, you can't be guilted into taking away something that no one on that side wanted. Like, if the person has never wanted your love, how did they get mad at something they never wanted? How did they get mad at something they thought was stupid? How did they get mad at something they thought was beneath them? And I hope this hits whoever's ears needed to hear it, but please know we are so needed at this time. And love is love is love. So don't ever forget that you are the bearer of this, and you can choose who you wish to share it with. And have a good one. Love you lots.